All right, welcome to the 37th edition of Before the Battle. I am Nick Baldwin, and joining me as always is the man behind BestBuyPicks.com and the host of Half the Battle, Daniel Levy. Back on the show as always. Daniel, how's it going?
It's going amazing, dude. I mean, obviously we're coming off International Fight Week, UFC 200, and I gotta say, man, the stars of that weekend were Joanna Champion and Amanda Nunes. I never thought in a million years that I'd be saying that, but I am, and geez, they really stole the shows. And how about Jose Aldo with that very smart performance against Frankie Edgar? One doesn't simply outsmart Frankie Edgar.
Yes, absolutely. It was a great weekend, top to bottom. We're not going to get into it much. It's all previewing UFC Fight Night 91 on the show. Joining us as always, writer for Sportsnet and Vendetta fighter. Go, Paolo. Paolo, how's it going?
How's it going? Happy to be back talking fights with you guys. Still from that, what's it called, hangover from International Fight Week. Had a lot of fights there, a lot of great fights, a lot of not so great fights, but mostly great fights. And yeah, Daniel mentioned the lady stole the show, but also got to give a shout out to Brock Lesnar and Eddie Alvarez for great performances as well, man.
And joining us for the first time, filling in for Mike Biggie Rhodes, is the host of the SFLC podcast, Mike Heck. Mike, how's it going?
It's going well. I wish I had some better technical news for you guys so you could see my shining face with my big red pimple on my face. So I was hoping that's not why the video didn't work. But yes, and I agree with Paolo. I was waiting for someone to drop Eddie Alvarez's name as far as performances of International Fight Week, but he stole the thunder there, and I agree with him. And let's preview this fight. I'm very excited and honored to be joining you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you again for stopping by for the first time here on the show. Let's get into UFC Fight Night 91. It's coming literally days after UFC 200. It seems like people don't even really know what's happening, but it is, and we're here to break it down. It's not the most stacked card coming off UFC 200. I've definitely seen better, but we'll talk it anyways. Opening up the card, we have newcomer Devin Clark taking on Alex Nicholson, which will be his second UFC fight. Daniel, I mean, this is kind of a coin toss fight, a fight that we're not going to spend too much time on. Give us a winner.
Alex Nicholson is what we like to refer to as a jobber, someone that's brought in to lose, and he's being brought in to lose to Devin Clark. You know, Devin Clark's got the wrestling credentials. He was also on Dana White's Looking for a Fight, and usually on the first fights that those guys get, they tend to win, except for Walt Harris, and you know, karma was a bitch in that place. But as far as the other guys, they were able to get a victory on their first attempt. I believe Devin Clark will do that here.
And Paulo, I'm going to guess you don't know too much about either guy, especially Devin Clark, but share what you know, and who do you think wins this fight?
Yeah, I gotta go with the favorite here. Big surprise there, but Alex Nicholson, from what little I know about him, he's just not that great in a lot of areas, man. And I mean, I guess he could grow and become a good fighter, but at this stage in his career, I mean, he's just not cutting it. I mean, I think the UFC would have cut him if it didn't take that short notice fight. And you know how they always like to give the fighter an extra fight regardless of how badly they perform in the first fight. So I think this is just a favor that they're giving him, but I think he's going to get starched here, and we'll be back in the regional circuits.
And Mike, do you agree? Are you picking Devin Clark here as well?
I am picking Devin Clark. I had the honor of chatting with him a few weeks back, right after the fight was announced, and the guy is hungry. He's obviously a beast, a former RFA light heavyweight champion of the world, and I think this will be a great coming out party for him. And I just don't see it going very well for Alex Nicholson at all. So I say Devin Clark wins, and he wins it early.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Devin Clark will probably win this fight, but I can't say I'm confident because it is Alex Nicholson and Devin Clark. I mean, Devin's probably the better fighter. Like Daniel said, he wasn't looking for a fight. So chances are he won't find too much success in the UFC, probably lose his second or third fight. But he should be successful here against Alex Nicholson, who just really isn't that good of a fighter. Next up, we got Ronnie Yaya taking on newcomer Matthew Lopez, who is also on looking for a fight. Daniel, are you going with Lopez here or the Brazilian?
This is a really tough one to call, man, because Rani Yaya has so much more experience than Matthew Lopez. Also, if you look into Matthew Lopez's fights, you know, he basically is a first-round finisher, and that's it. The only time he's been out of the first round was against a guy that's 0-1. You know what I mean? So it basically, I'm looking at a guy that is not used to going past the first round. Hani Yahya has been in the UFC for a very long time. The experience should prevail here, unless Lopez is some kind of, crazy, crazy super prospect that we just don't know about. He's talented. He'll have a bright future, but I think Hani Yahya will be a setback here for him.
And Paolo, who are you picking in this fight?
Yeah, this is a tough fight, man, because I think, what's it called? Lopez has a lot of the skills and has the higher ceiling, obviously, to win the fight. But I mean, this is his first fight, and Hani Yahya's like this championship level jiu-jitsu fighter. And if you look at his record, I mean, I know a lot of people don't really know Hani Yahya, but this guy's been with Zuffa for like a long time, man. I mean, and he's only lost to like the Chad Mendeses, the Takeya Mizugakis, and the Joseph Benavideses of the world. And he usually beats guys who are like, newcomers or people don't know a lot about. So I think over the course of the distance, if he doesn't get finished here, which I think there's a good chance if Lopez keeps the fight standing and uses his heavy hands to like pound him and finish him, I think he could beat him by decision, or maybe even catch him on a submission if Lopez makes a mistake.
Interesting. Now, Mike, who are you picking in this fight? Will the Brazilian veteran get the job done, or will Lopez be successful in his debut?
Well, just in the interest of being different here, it is a tough fight to pick, but I'm going to go with Lopez here. For some reason, I mean, Yahya, as you guys said, his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is top-notch. He's nasty. But I think as far as how Lopez fights, I think you can only prepare for a guy really in one way. So I think Lopez really has found a way in his training to keep this fight on the feet, and I think he gets the job done here. I'm going to say he wins a very close decision. I think the experience is going to play a factor as we get into the later rounds, but I think Lopez will do enough in the first couple of rounds to hang on. I think Yahya will threaten some nastiness in the third round, but I think Lopez will do enough to take a decision here.
Now, I think Yahya will win this fight. Like you guys said, he's the better grappler by quite a bit. He's more experienced, although he has been out of action for a year. It's almost exactly a year as of fight day. His last fight was a split decision over Masanori Kanehara, who's no longer in the UFC. I believe he got cut, and that was a split decision that a lot of people thought could have gone Kanehara's way. So, I mean, I'm not that high on Yahya, but I think he'll be able to grind out Matthew Lopez here. I think the experience advantage will play fairly big into this fight. Against a seasoned veteran like Yahya is, Matthew Lopez may feel some octagon jitters. Now, kicking off the televised prelims, we've got an interesting lightweight bout between Scott Holtzman and Cody Pfister. Daniel, are you going with hot sauce or the fist?
It's one of those matchups where Holtzman had a lot of hype going into his UFC debut. He was a minus 1,000 favorite. Everyone thinks he's going to starch Chris Dudulu in the first round, and then, he struggles to do so. It takes him up until the third. We weren't that impressed. And then he goes out there against Drew Dober. He actually dropped that fight. So maybe we need to pump the brakes on Holtzman a little bit. At least I did a long time ago. But Pfister, that's a lower tier of the 155-pound division. What Pfister likes to do, very relentless grappler. He'll be in your face. He might even take Holtzman down, but eventually he's going to gas out, and Holtzman will either capitalize and submit him or grind out the next two rounds and win a 29-28.
And Paulo, who are you picking in this 155-pound matchup?
Yeah, I like Holtzman here. I mean, honestly, Pfister, I've only ever been a fan of him once, and that was when he fought Sage Northcutt, just because looking at how that fight was, it was so obvious, like just the way it looked like a Bellator fight. You got sexy boy Sage over here. He's a big hype prospect. He looks good. He fights good. And then you give him against like dad bod Cody Pfister, who was basically sent in there to get smashed. And then he has success in the first round using his wrestling. Sage doesn't know what to do on the mat. So, but no, I think Holtzman. I mean, Pfister, if he wins the first year, I'm not going to be too shocked because, he's going to grind out Holtzman. But eventually, he's going to run out of gas, and Holtzman is just going to light him up and probably win.
And, Mike, do you agree here? Will Scott Holtzman win this fight, or do you think Cody Pfister will get the upset?
Nah, no upset here. I think Holtzman gets the job done. Like you guys both said, Pfister is a really aggressive and relentless grappler, and I think Holtzman's ready for that. I think Holtzman has a few more tools in the toolbox to get the job done. So I'm going to agree with Daniel here. I think Pfister gets the first round. I think Holtzman grinds out second and third, gets a 29-28.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Scott Holtzman here as well, the favorite. I mean, Cody Pfister just isn't that good. Although, I mean, he survived the first round against Sage Northcutt before he had Northcutt had lost. So there's something to say about Pfister here, but I think Scott Holtzman all around the better fighter. This is going to be a grinding affair there. Though I don't see a finish happening in this matchup. Both guys are pretty tough. I think Scott Holtzman will outgrind the Fist. I think Scott Holtzman will win this fight by unanimous decision. I actually don't think Cody will win the first round. I think Scott will take all three. But it's going to be a situation where it's like all three rounds are relatively close, or at least the first couple are anyways. But Scott Holtzman is my pick by decision. Now next up, we got Courtney Casey taking on Christina Stansu. Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
It's funny because they're both very similar to each other in terms of their styles. What's different about them is Courtney Casey is a lot bigger than Christina. But, they like to do the same things. They go out there, they throw big bombs, but then they'll do dumb shit in the fight, like jump for a guillotine and lose position. For example, Courtney Casey, she hurt Joanne Calderwood in the first round, and just like Mehdi Baghdad did a couple days ago, when you're about to knock out your opponent and you decide to go for a flying armbar, that shows bad fight IQ right there. And with Christina, she did similar things in her fight between her and Marina Moroz. So I would stay away from a bet here. Just sit down and enjoy it as a fan. Since I have to give a pick, I'm gonna go with Courtney Casey.
And Paolo, who do you like in this women's matchup?
Yeah, man, when I saw this and I saw the line, I was like, people are actually that confident to be throwing juice at Stanchu. Like, no, don't get me wrong. Courtney Casey isn't exactly what I would say is the most skilled or technical fighter there is. Like Daniel said, not that great fight IQ ever. She's a brawler, She's the type of girl who goes in there, she fights hard, she'll clinch up, she'll throw bombs, try to knock the other girl out, but she just doesn't have the power technique to do it. Now with Stanchu, she actually can knock girls out. I mean, lower level girls. And she's slightly better striker here, stronger too, slightly better wrestling. But yeah, man, like definitely if you're betting this fight, you got a lot of balls betting fight, just to say so. But I'm gonna go with Stanchu here to win by decision.
Do you guys remember how the Marina Moroz fight played out? Like, I know Moroz beat Christina by decision, but how, like, did she just grind it out, or what was the case there?
I mean, basically, Stansu started off very strong. She was brawling with her, but Marina Moroz just used that experience, She'd get the takedown at the right spots. She'd tag her when Stanchu was tired. Stanchu just seemed like she was simply too small, and she didn't have the gas to compete with 3 rounds with someone at such a high caliber.
All right. Now, Mike, who do you like in this matchup? Cast Iron or Barbie?
It's kind of a tough fight because, both these gentlemen explained it. They're very similar in style, but I'm going to pick Courtney Casey only because I think she needs this one more. I mean, she's coming off 2 losses in the UFC, 2 unanimous decision losses, Calderwood and Tahiham at UFC Fight Night 79. So I think she needs to get a win here. She's a slight dog here as far as the betting lines go, but I think just the fact that she has to get a win here, this is very pivotal for her. She's probably on the chopping block right now. I think I'm just going to lean towards her just on that aspect. That desperation will take advantage here.
Yeah, this is a close fight, and it's kind of a coin toss for me. I will go Christina Stansu to be a bit different. Courtney Casey, not all impressive, and her fight IQ, like Daniel kind of added there, just maybe not where it should be. No, I'm not. Stansu really, I don't think, goes that far in the women's strawweight division in the UFC. She lost to Marina Moroz, as we mentioned, in her debut. Could jitters have gotten to her? Yeah, maybe, but, I mean, I don't know. It's a coin toss for me. I'll go with Stansu, but don't bet this fight. If anyone bets Casey, then okay, fine, take a shot on the dog, but no one should be betting on Christina Stansu here. She just hasn't shown enough in the UFC. Casey's just not that. She like you guys mentioned, she's a brawler. So it's a coin toss. I'll I'll go with the with Barbie here. Next up, we got a very interesting middleweight matchup between Tough 23 semifinalists Eric Spicely and Smiling Sam Alvey. Daniel, who do you like in this 185-pound matchup?
It's an interesting fight because anytime Sam Alvey fights, what he chooses to do is not fight. And then out of nowhere, he'll throw a big right hand and send someone flying across the octagon. So it's a matter of what's his game plan here. Is he going to do the same shit he always does, which is just stare at you and, you know, get kicked here with little cute kicks and lose the decision? Or is he going to decide to let his hands go? When this guy decides to let his hands go, he's one of the most dangerous fighters at 185 pounds. It's just that he has a history of just not doing anything. And we know history tends to repeat itself. Now, when you look at Eric Spicely, he's a plus 225 underdog. And, you know, I know the only memory that people have of him is him getting knocked out on Tough. But when you put that into perspective, he fought at 205 pounds on Tough. This guy's a middleweight. And on The Ultimate Fighter, fighters don't fight like themselves because they got to cut weight every single week. You know, one doesn't simply make weight, you know, 3 times in 3 weeks and have 3 fights in 3 weeks, might I add. It's just not good for the body, you know. Most fighters in the UFC fight 3 times a year, not 3 times in 3 weeks. So I think people are going to be surprised what they see by Spicely. His top control is second to none. You saw his fight with Tex Johnson. Tex holds the record for fastest sub in Bellator history. And Eric Spicely has 0 problems mounting this guy for 3 rounds straight. I think Spicely will find a way to win, whether he avoids the fight, which is cool with me because I'm a betting man, and I'll take the little, you know, the cute hit and run with the takedown at the end of the round. Whatever it takes, man. But I got Spicely winning this fight.
Interesting. Underdog pick here. Paolo, do you agree? Are you going with Eric Spicely here as well? Or do you think Smiling Sam Alvey can get back into the winning column?
Yeah, I think the lines are completely off here, man. I think Alvey is like, yeah, he's just a very low volume kind of striker. I know we talked about this in his last fight against Teodoro, and you know, Spicely, this guy's actually a pretty highly touted prospect. He's really good on the ground, and I mean, he got knocked out on Tough. So I think the recency bias have the what's it called, the lines maker saying, oh, he's gonna get knocked out by Sam Alvey, who knocks people out. But I don't think that's gonna happen, man. I think Spicely's gonna hit and run and do what Teodoro did. Keep the fight away from Sam Alvey and win at least 2 rounds, or at least make it close enough to steal a decision. But I just don't think Alvey's going to do enough to win here. He has to knock him out, and I don't think he'll knock him out.
Interesting. Mike, do you agree with both Paulo and Daniel? Are you picking Eric Spicely here? Or, like I said, do you think Sam Alvey can win this fight?
Well, I mean, he definitely can win this fight. I just don't think he will win this fight. And you know, I just, everything you guys say, I just feel like I'm agreeing with everything because I walked into this whole thing thinking I was going to be the only one picking Eric Spicely, but apparently I am not. And I think I think the biggest difference here is, you know, Sam Alvey throws, you know, some weird strikes and stuff like that, but Spicely is a beast on the ground. He is a monster, and if he can get, basically it's going to come down to this: can Spicely get the fight to the ground? And once he does, I think Alvey's in for a really long night, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. I'm going Eric Spicely, unanimous decision victory.
Now is the time to start the disagreement. I am picking Smiling Sam Alvey. Now, I'm not confident because Eric Spicely can jab him twice around, get the takedown in the last 20 seconds, and steal every single round and win by 30-27 decision in his debut. But and another point against my pick of Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey recently broke his jaw, and a broken jaw isn't an injury people can overcome quite easily. Like, I know he's had a fight since then. He fought Elias Theodoro, and he looked like trash. He looked terrible in that fight. Now, Elias Theodoro is a good fighter. I'm quite high on Theodoro. I mean, the loss to Thiago Santos was one thing, but I do think Theodoro will do well in the future. So, but at the same time, I picked Elias Theodoro in that fight, but I still expected more from Sam Alvey. He legit, like, maybe threw 2 punches in 15 minutes. It was an awful performance, but Eric Spicely, I don't know, I just get this feeling. Sam Alvey, he either knocks the guy out or he doesn't throw a punch the whole fight. So you guys are saying He won't throw a punch, basically. All go the knockout. It's kind of a coin toss again for me because Eric Spicely could even grind him out. I mean, don't be surprised if Spicely can lay on top of Sam Alvey for 3 rounds. It is possible. Or, like Daniel was kind of thinking, just pot him a few times per round. Meanwhile, Alvey's doing nothing because his career has changed due to his jaw or something like that. But I get this feeling that I think Sam Alvey will win this fight. I think he knows he needs a fight. I actually think we might see him throw a bit more volume than usual, other than the knockout punch. I think he knows he needs this win. 2-fight winning losing streak. I think he probably needs this win to possibly even save his UFC career, and he knows that. He's a smart guy. He understands that. So I think Sam Alvey will land. Whether that's in the first round or the second round, I don't know, but I do think Smiling Sam Alvey lands this in this fight and puts Eric Spicely away. Now, next up, the headlining Fox Sports 1 prelim, we got Lauren Murphy taking on Caitlin Chukagian. I'm sorry for butchering these people's names, but Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
You know, this is an interesting matchup because with Lauren Murphy, she's a -190 favorite. That's kind of a hefty favorite when you consider the fact that she fights so close in all of her fights. Now with Caitlin, she trains at Team Edgar, so you know she's getting in work with Renzo Gracie, Ricardo Almeida, Mark Henry, all those geniuses. So she's poised and primed to have a good performance here. It's just a matter of is Lauren Murphy's experience going to be too much here? So, I mean, as a betting man, it's dog or pass. But I'm just not sure if Caitlin's ready to rise to the occasion. But I'll roll the dice and say that she is.
All right, now, Paolo, who do you like in this matchup? Lauren Murphy, lucky Lauren Murphy, or the UFC newcomer, blonde fighter?
I think it's her name's Chukagian. At least that's how I heard them pronounce it in the commentating team, but I'm not too comfortable with it too. Yeah, I think she's gonna win, man. I mean, this girl's a great grappler, but Lauren Murphy has the fighting experience. Yeah, but like Daniel said, the thing about Lauren Murphy is she gets in really close fights, man. I mean, even if she's fighting an Olympic level wrestler like Sarah McMahon, or she's fighting Lise Carmouche, she'll be like in a grind fest with them, and it's gonna be one of those fights where it's gonna be a toss-up because they're like, you know, exchanging positions, grinding each other out. There's really no clear-cut winner here, but from a bet perspective, it's dog or pass. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Chukagian here as well. I hate to like keep repeating everything Daniel says like a parrot, but you know, gotta go with the fighter who doesn't have a bad history of not winning the judges over.
All right, Mike. Yeah, are you going with the unlucky Lauren Murphy, more like it, because she seems to get robbed every other fight, or the UFC newcomer Caitlin Chukagian? I give up on that.
It's Chukagian for sure. I had Caitlin on the show and asked her. I wasn't sure the pronunciation was correct, and we nailed it. But listen, Lauren Murphy has been in some really tough decisions. The Sarah McMahon fight, I actually thought Lauren won. The Carmouche fight was really not a good fight for Lauren because, you know, you expected a lot more of a brawling kind of a fight, but it looked like Carmouche just kind of ran away from most of it. Chukagian's a kind of a fighter who's very aggressive. She'll go after it, but I think the big advantage for Lauren here, one, with the experience, and two, the fact that Chukagian, you know, is not a 135-pounder. She's a 125-pounder. She was the Cage Fury fighting champion at 125 pounds. So she's stepping up a weight class because she's tired of waiting for her chance to fight at 125. Yes, we saw one fight at 125, but there's no clarity, or we're not 100% sure that they're going to keep that weight class around. So she's taking her chance while the chance was given to her. But man, I think a lot of people forget that when Lauren Murphy came in, she was one of the top prospects at 135 pounds. She took a couple of close losses. She took on a really tough but a much bigger fighter in Kelly Fashholtz back in February in Pittsburgh. So I got to go with Lauren here. I do think Caitlin has a really good debut performance here, but I just think Lauren's size and experience will play a factor here. I think Lauren gets it done, but man, it's going to be a really fun fight to watch.
Yeah, I think Mike actually hit the nail on the head here. I like Lauren Murphy for the two reasons you said. Lauren Murphy has the UFC experience. She has 4 more fights than Caitlin does, so there's a bit of experience advantage just in MMA overall there as well. And just something that, like, I didn't know, but Caitlin, like Mike just said, was a former flyweight and natural flyweight. So I got to go with Lauren Murphy here. I think she's also underrated now that she lost to people like McMahon and Carnouche, but we forget that a lot of people scored that. I didn't actually see the McMahon fight, but a lot of people scored it for Murphy. I did see the Carnouche fight, and I absolutely scored it for Lauren Murphy. So she got back into winning column in her last fight. She looked good against Fasthold, so I got to go with Lauren Murphy here for those two reasons, especially the experience advantage. Now, next up, we got a really intriguing flyweight matchup, arguably one of the best fights on the entire card. We got Louis Smolka taking on Ben Nguyen. I'll start with Paolo this time. Who do you like in this matchup?
I like Smolka here, although this is one of those fights. As you know, with me and flyweights, I kind of love everyone in that division. Yeah, but I really like both guys, and I'm disappointed that one of them is going to have to take a loss. I'm going with Smolka because I think he has the experience edge. Not as much, yeah, but he has the experience edge. I think he's been in situations where he's been hurt, where he's been put in more uncomfortable positions than Nguyen has. So if the fight gets really close, which I think it will, unless Nguyen knocks him out in the first round, which could happen, but I don't think it will happen. I'm picking Smolka to like get through that rough patch and like use his more versatile skill set to win the decision over Nguyen. Although if they get crazy in a scramble when they grapple and someone gets subbed, I won't be shocked either. But gotta go with Smolka here.
And Mike, are you going with the Last Samurai here or Ben 10?
Well, it was. I thought about it for a minute because Ben 10 was born in Sioux Falls, so technically this is kind of a hometown, resurgence for him. It's his debut as well as the UFC's debut, fighting in Sioux Falls under the UFC umbrella. But I think Smolka is nasty, man, and that division. It kind of flies under the radar because Demetrius is just so good that you kind of like you eliminate a lot of the contenders that are there. And Smolka, as good as he is still extremely underrated in my opinion. And Nguyen obviously has that power. He could finish the fight in the first round, but I think this will be a nice little coming out party for Smolka. I think he wins. I think he gets a decision, but I think he gets a pretty dominant decision here. I think it's pretty fun for a couple minutes, but I think Smolka takes over. I think he's got way more tools in the toolbox. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I don't care. I'm gonna say it again. But I think this is Smolka's fight. I think he cracks the top 10. And I think at the end of the year, Smolka could put himself in a position to get himself at least in the conversation for a shot at the title. That's how good and how highly I think of him.
Wow, now Daniel, are you agreeing with both Paul and Mike here? Will Louis Smolka win this fight, or will Ben 10 continue his winning streak?
No, I got to go with my boy Louis Smolka. I mean, Mike said he's going to win a dominant decision. I'm going to take it a step further. I think he's going to finish Ben Nguyen. I got a lot of respect for Ben, very tough fighter. But both of his fights in the UFC have been in Australia. And people often underestimate what the jet lag is like to have to go through an 18-hour flight. And if you think about it, so like right now it's 11:40 p.m. at night where we are. And in Australia, it's like fucking like 1 p.m. the very next
Jake Matthews.
It's something. Yeah, exactly. I'm getting there. So you look at a guy like Jake Matthews who looks absolutely dominant in all of his fights in Australia, except when he fought my boy James Vick. But he looks dominant every single time. He comes over to the States on 1 week, thinking he's just gonna roll in here and not get acclimated, and it didn't even look like the same Jake Matthews. So I think the jet lag is going to be a factor, but even if this was in Australia, I would pick Louis Smolka. Louis actually went to Australia, and he sidekicked the dude in the face, got a performance bonus. So Louis gets better every single fight. That's the really important thing to watch here because, people make jokes like, oh, he lost to Chris Carriasso, but if you watch that fight and then you watch his fight with Paddy Houlihan, it's a completely different guy. The level that he's evolved to, I believe, just like Mike said, that he's a guy that can be taken a top 10, maybe even top 5 spot in this division. I think this will be a showcase fight as well. And he's going to make a statement on Ben 10. He's going to be the first man in UFC history to finish Ben. Ben's he's what we like to refer to as an aggressive juggernaut. Someone that just comes forward, very offensive, but not defense at all. He's open to the counters. He's open to the takedowns, and I believe he'll get submitted in this fight.
Now, Daniel, quickly to play devil's advocate a little bit, although I do agree because he's fighting out of Australia, it is a bit different than Jake Matthews because he was born in Sioux Falls.
Right, he was born in Sioux Falls, but he lives in Australia, so therefore his body is acclimated to Australia time. So just because you used to live somewhere, 15 years ago, doesn't mean that your body is on that time zone. So
The
yeah,
difference,
go ahead.
the difference though that I see is that it's not a foreign land for him.
Oh yeah, it's not a foreign land for him. But look, for example, I'll make an example that hits home with me because, my dad works in Korea. He has to go to Korea 8 times a year, and the flight never gets easier. You always feel that jet lag, no matter what. Now I know you mentioned he was born there, but I mean, still, dude, when you live somewhere for 15 to 20 years, you get used to that time. Just like Bisbing, he lives in L.A. You can consider him an American now, but but back to this, man. Jet lag or no jet lag, I was just mentioning it as a possible factor for this fight. I do believe Louis Smolka is the better fighter and will rise to the occasion this Wednesday in Sioux Falls.
Now I'm gonna disagree with all you guys here. I like Ben Wynn here, and this is a close matchup on paper. It's a really close matchup on paper. Now, I'm a big fan of Smolka, too. I've interviewed him twice. He's in the Tout Master tournament. You can't not like The Last Samurai, but on paper, it's a close matchup. Smolka has the advantage on the ground, although I do believe Ben Wynn's submission game is a bit underrated. In his last fight, he submitted Ryan Benoit in the first round. First fight in the UFC was a knockout win. Louis Smolka, like I said, probably has the advantage on the ground. Ben Wynn absolutely, though, has the advantage on the feet. Now, like I said, this is close on paper, but I get the feeling Ben Wynn will really not shock the world, but I do think the outcome of this fight might surprise people. I have this small feeling that Ben Wynn might just come out and prove that he's on a different level than Louis Smolka. I don't know why, but there's something telling me that Ben Wynn might just come out and absolutely smoke Louis Smolka on the feet. So I'm going to listen to that. Although it's close on paper, I will pick Ben Wynn here. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout or a submission, but I actually do think Ben Wynn will come out and absolutely starch Louis Smolka in the first round. Now, next up, we got Kyle Noak taking on Keita Nakamura. Daniel, who do you like in this welterweight matchup?
I always look to fade Kyle Noak. I mean, you got to bet against the guy. And much respect to him because he really is a vet of the game. He's been there. He's done that. That front kick he landed on Sabata. I mean, dude, everyone could hear that. One doesn't simply go down from a front kick. That tells you how hard the guy kicks. But, in this spot specifically, I think that Keita Nakamura is very underrated. A lot of people, their, recollection of his fight with Li Jingliang was that, he was getting his ass kicked, and then out of nowhere, he got this lucky submission. But if you actually go back and you watch the fight, he dropped Li Jingliang in that first round. So he took the first round. Second round, Jingliang came back. So it was a very back-and-forth fight. It all came down to the third round. And, Keita pulled it off and took his back and choked him out unconscious. So that tells me that when it's crunch time, the guy knows how to pull out the victory. Now, against Tom Breeze, he was a plus 800 underdog. Tom Breeze was like minus 1050. It was something crazy. Everyone was betting for Tom Breeze to finish him in the first round. And then he arguably went in there and beat Tom Breeze. It was in England or Dublin or some crazy shit like that. So, obviously he got the hometown decision. But a lot of people thought that Keita won that fight. So that's two very impressive UFC showings. And I've thought for a long time Kyle Noak is an aging competitor. Much respect to him. I mean, he's the former Crocodile Hunter's bodyguard. I mean, the dude's a badass. I'd have a beer with him. But when it comes down to breaking these fights, it can be cold, it can be ruthless, and it is never personal. So I got to go with Keita Nakamura here, plus 155.
Mike, do you agree? Are you picking Keita Nakamura here, or do you think the Australian will get the job done?
It's tough because you make some great points there, but I'm gonna lean towards Kyle Noke to get a really close decision here. I think he knows that takedowns are probably gonna have to come for Nakamura to get a win here. I think Kyle's ready for that. He's probably really pissed off after losing the fight to Alex Morano, who I like Alex a lot. The guy is underrated. He could do some damage in that division for sure, but I don't think Kyle is ready for that fight. I think Alex kind of surprised him, especially with his stand-up game, and I think he's a little angry. I think he needs somebody to take that anger out on, and I think he's going to take it out on Nakamura. I think it's a competitive fight, but I think Noke will win a decision 29-28 here.
And Paulo, who are you agreeing with here? Do you like Noke or Nakamura?
See, my heart agrees with Daniel because, you gotta love Keitaro. This guy has heart for days. I mean, he gets hurt a lot in his fights, but he's known to come back, and he's slick on the ground. He's nasty. Look at what he did to Li Jingliang. One small mistake from Li, and he capitalized and choked the crap out of him. And Li, as we know, this guy's a beast, man. With Kyle Noke, he's got skills everywhere, but sometimes he just doesn't. Like, it's weird because he'll lose to guys he's supposed to beat, and then he'll beat guys he's supposed to lose to. So, I mean, he's supposed to beat Keita Nakamura right now because he's the favorite. And logic dictates that maybe he'll use his wrestling, reverse wrestling, keep the fight standing, outstrike Keita Nakamura, maybe even knock him out because Keitaro's chin is not really the best because he's been in some wars. So I'm going to pick Kyle Noke to do that. But, I mean, if he goes in there, tries to out-grapple Keita Nakamura and get sub, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised at all.
Yeah, this is a really close fight. Now, I was one of those people, Daniel, that picked Tom Breeze first round knockout. I faded Keita Nakamura really, really much in that fight. Man, Nakamura, like, I think I did score the fight for Breeze, but it kind of could have gone either way. And, I mean, I kind of had to be impressed with the Nakamura there, just because he survived and did way better than I thought. But I think that was just more me overestimating Breeze there, and then of course it happened again against John Strickland. But I'm going to go with Kyle Noke here. I think, although he's actually 4 years older than Nakamura, fight years wise, it seems like Nakamura is actually the older guy. I don't know if it's just me that gets that impression, but I don't know. It's something about Keita Nakamura's game, nearly losing to Jingliang Li. I'm going to go with Kyle Noke, although this is a fight where it's like, flip a coin because I would fade. It's a fight where I want to fade either guy, and I can't, unfortunately. So I'm gonna pick one guy, and I think Kyle Noke will walk away the victor. But it'll be a close fight. I'm not expecting a whole lot of action from this fight. I think Kyle Noke will win by close decision. Now, next up, we got the return of Oleksiy Oleinik taking on Daniel Omielanczuk. Daniel, who do you like in this matchup? Are you picking Daniel or Oleinik?
It's tough for me to pick against guys named Daniel, right? Unless it's Daniel Cormier fighting John Jones. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Daniel here, and I'll tell you why. Look, Oleksiy Oleinik is a way better fighter. There's no discussion about that, even though he should be fighting at 185 pounds, not a heavyweight. And also, among the fans, he's a total badass because anytime you go out there and you knock out Jared Rosholt, I'm a fan of yours. So, just like the Black Beast did, and just like Oleksiy did. And another thing that's cool about him is that he'll submit dudes with like schoolyard headlocks, like he did to Crow Cop. So, I mean, this guy's a consummate badass. The biggest issue here is not only has he not fought since 2014, he's coming off all these surgeries, all these injuries. Now, I know some guys haven't fought since 2014 and they come back looking better than ever, like Rick Story did against Tarek Safdien. That was one of those situations where, he needed to rest his body. He needed to take some time off. With Oleksiy, it's been surgery after surgery, and they've been serious things too. So I'm not sure if he's going to come back the same. With Daniel Omielanczuk, it's never been anything overwhelming. It's meat and potatoes. He can't stuff a takedown, which is really bad news here. But he's been able to squeak out these decisions. I'm going to say that the ring rust plays a factor, and Daniel finds a way to win. But as a fan, I'll be rooting for Oleksiy to take him in that schoolyard, put him in a little headlock, and give him a noogie.
All right, Paolo, are you picking Oleksiy Oleinik in this matchup to return successfully, or will the poll get the job done?
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. I think it's pretty straightforward, like the odds indicate. I think Oleksiy Oleinik, the better fighter. I know Daniel said he's supposed to be fighting at middleweight. I mean, Omielanchuk is not that much bigger than this guy. And, I mean, the thing is, yeah, he can't stuff a takedown. Alexei Oleinik's best position is from the top, so I think it writes itself. He's going to take him down. He's going to beat him up from the top and probably put on one of his scarf hold chokes or one of these exotic chokes that he likes to do and get Omielanchuk out of there. But with that said, I remember someone broke, I can't remember who, but they broke it down when he was fighting Jared Rosholt, that Jared Rosholt was basically going to Jared Rosholt his butt and stay on top of him and, grind him out. And then he goes out there and knocks out Jared Rosholt. So if Demian Omielanchuk goes out there and knocks out Alexei Oleinik, I'm not going to be at all surprised. It's heavyweight. But with that said, Alexei Oleinik by submission here.
And Mike, are you agreeing? Do you like Alexei Oleinik here to win in his return, or do you think Daniel Omielanchuk can get the upset?
I'm going to agree with Paolo in two ways. One, I'm not going to take very long with this, and two, yes, Oleinik by submission. It's just going to happen. I'm sorry. I wish I had more to say about this, but this fight ends quickly and ends by submission.
Yeah, the only worry here with me picking Alexei Oleinik is the layoff. He's been out of action since, November of 2014, I believe, on the card that Edgar dominated Swanson. I will pick Oleinik. Not that confident because of the layoff, but on paper he's a way better fighter. I think he takes down the pole really early and pulls off the submission. He could even knock him out. I mean, Oleinik has power. It's heavyweight. We saw what he did to Jared Rosholt on that card in his last fight. So, I mean, nothing would surprise me because it is heavyweight, but I got to go with Alexei, the boa constrictor, Oleinik here to get the job done inside the distance, most likely in the first round. Now, next up, we got Tim, the Barbarian Bosch, taking on Josh the Man. Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
I got to go with the favorite, Josh the Man here. I think Tim Bosch's better days are behind him. Back in his day, he was a tough dude. He had knockout power. He could judo throw guys, and he was always an overachiever. But with Josh the Man, I mean, the athleticism is on a different level. Obviously, the head kicks, as we saw in a couple of his fights. His fight IQ is a concern because in that fight with Tamden McCrory, he just initiated the grappling exchanges. It's like, what are you doing, dude? You got these powerful strikes, and as you saw when my boy Jocko knocked out the Barncat in under a minute to catch that plus 200 underdog play, that you should probably stand with the Barncat and not exchange grappling, with him. So what I'm wondering here is Josh the Man going to go out there and fight smart? Because if he does, he's going to finish Tim Bosch. But if he fights like an idiot, like he did in his last fight, you could see an upset here. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Josh the Man for the victory inside the distance.
And Paolo, Josh the Man, do you think he gets the job done? The biggest win of his career. Tim Bosch is a big name, although the decline. Do you think the Man gets the job done?
Yeah, see, the thing with Tim Bosch is, I think this guy is has three straight losses. He's only won one in his last 5. And I mean, if you think about it, I remember breaking this fight down. I don't know when, but when he was against Dan Henderson, I think I was like, Tim Bosch hasn't been in a fight that he wasn't losing in. I mean, his last win was against Brad Tavares, and Brad Tavares was styling on him for most of the fight. And then he lands an uppercut and just knocks out Brad Tavares. And then against CB Dalloway, I think pokes him in the eye like 10 times and pulls the shorts or something and gets 3 points deducted. So obviously Tim Bosch wins. And then the one before that, he split decision Hector Lombard, who was a small middleweight, and then he was losing to Yushin Okami and just comes back and wins. So I think his ability to come back from getting started so badly and wins is pretty much the only reason he's still in the UFC, man. I mean, everyone loves a good comeback story. But in this case against Josh the Man, he's just completely Samantha's better in nearly everything. He's faster, he's more athletic, he has less wear and tear, he's got the submission advantage. And yeah, like Daniel said, if Josh the Man fights like an idiot, he could totally lose. But if he fights smart, he's going to beat up Tim Bosch, and I think he's going to fight smart and beat up Tim Bosch.
And Mike, do you think Tim Bosch pulls off the upset here? Do you think the veteran gets the job done, or will Bloody Elbows own get back into the winning column here?
Nah, Tim Bosch doesn't get the job done here. Like Daniel said, his best days are way behind him. I mean, you look at the losses. Tialis Leites, yeah. Dan Henderson, yeah. But I was there live for the Ed Herman fight, and Ed Herman just kind of outclassed him there. I mean, I just don't see this going well for Tim Bosch, and I know he needs a win here. I know he has to have it. Losing, 4 out of his last 5 fights. I just don't see it happening here. I think Josh gets the win inside the distance as well. I think he gets a finish, I'll say, in the second round.
Yeah, I gotta agree with all of you here, and so now, of course, Tim Bosch is gonna knock him out in the first round. But Josh the Man is the twin brother of Jesus, so I mean, he is the twin brother of Jesus, so you gotta go with Josh the Man here. Surprisingly, Bosch has the age advantage here, though, with him fighting the twin brother of Jesus, so that might play into this fight a little bit. But realistically, Josh the Man is better ever. He's younger. He's more athletic. He has, at this point, he's probably even more powerful. Josh Mann is going to win this fight. I do think he knocks out Tim Bosch. But Tim Bosch is good at comebacks, so you never know. But I got to go with Josh Mann here inside the distance. Now, next up, we got the co-main event of the evening, and this reminds me of a fight we saw not too long ago, Khabib versus Horcher. We got Tony Ferguson versus UFC newcomer Lando Venata. Groovy is filling in for Michael Chiesa. Daniel, I think it's probably safe to say Tony Ferguson gets the win here, but we've seen stranger things happen.
You know, Landon Venata's no slouch. He comes to fight. The issue here, obviously, the UFC experience, and also this guy's naturally a featherweight. But I'll tell you what, man. If you watch his fights, he hits dudes and they go down and they stay down. So if Tony Ferguson comes in here with his hands down, as he's known to do, and he starts getting cocky, as he's known to do, he could get laid out here. But at the end of the day, if you can withstand Edson Barbosa's fire, I think you can withstand Landon Venata's fire. So I think it's going to be a crazy brawl while it lasts, and Tony Ferguson will find a way to win inside 1.5 rounds. But Landon Venata will make a good showing of himself in the very short time he lasts. Like, do you remember Cisco versus Lineker? It's going to be like that kind of thing, where even though Francisco Rivera lost the fight, the fans still love him, you know, kind of ordeal.
Yes.
But he got finished within the first round. You know, Tony's going to do that to Landon here, because Landon's exciting. He'll be back. He's going to be back at featherweight, but he's going to get probably standing Darce choked here.
Paolo, are you going with? Well, yeah, I'm sure you're going with Tony Ferguson. I'll get Chewy here. Tell me why Tony Ferguson will win this fight.
Tony Ferguson will win because he's just better everywhere. From what little I know about Landon Venata, I mean, don't get me wrong, this guy, I think he's a Greg Jackson fighter, and he's got that one-punch power. I mean, I think and I'm not sure if this is true, but I think his nickname is like the Right from Hell or something, or someone gave him that nickname, and that's because his right hand is one of the hardest right hands there is. It's like when he hits a guy with it, the guy just stiffens up, and it's scary just how strong this guy is. And like Daniel said, Tony Ferguson, this guy's all about showing off and looking good, and he might if he underestimates Landon Venata in there, Landon Venata in the distance is plus 1,020, man. So I mean, Landon Venata catches him, all he needs is one punch. Catches him good when he's trying to showboat or something like that. Tony Ferguson could get stiffened up there, man. But I mean, Tony Ferguson's fought a lot of power punchers. I mean, it's not like it's the first time he's going to be matched up with a power puncher. So you got to go with Tony Ferguson here. Big surprise.
And Mike, are you going with Tony Ferguson? If not, you better have a damn good explanation.
I don't have a damn good explanation because it's just not going to happen. I like Venata, and I think good things are coming for him in the future, no doubt about that. I mean, he's a savage, he's a stud. He's finished 7 out of his 8 fights. I mean, he's a wink guy. He's very tough. He is stepping up a weight class to fight just a very angry, yet probably newly motivated Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, a new dad. I know he was very pissed off about having to bail out of the Khabib fight. And again, I know he's pretty bummed out to not get Michael Chiesa either. I liked that Michael Chiesa fight. And I think kind of the unfortunate thing for Ferguson here is that Eddie Alvarez kind of threw everything off here, because a win here for Ferguson really does nothing for him at the end of the day. I mean, it'll set him up for another, top 5 fight down the road. But at the end of the day, a win over a Landon Venata isn't going to get him any closer to a title shot than he is right now at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So I think Ferguson gets the job done. I think he gets it done in the first round. I think Venata will show some stuff. I think he lands some shots. I think he will get Tony's attention for sure. But I see Tony Ferguson winning via strikes in the first round. Yes, I got to go with Tony Ferguson here as well. Don't know a whole lot about Lando Venata.
But Daniel says, like, I mean, if he does train out of Jackson's, that's definitely a good thing. They, of course, are one of the best gyms out there. Like you guys said, he probably does have power. I just don't see him landing. We have seen crazier upsets, but this definitely would be a big upset. I think Tony Ferguson, I mean, I'm not scared to say it. I honestly think he is probably the best lightweight out there right now. I honestly think that, and I just don't think Lando Venata can step up on short notice and beat, if not the best, one of the best lightweights in the world. I'm going Tony Ferguson. He's better everywhere by far. Any way he wants, knockout submission. I'll say submission, but he's going to get the job done probably in the first round. Now, next up, main event of the evening, we got number 5 bantamweight Michael McDonald taking on number 8 bantamweight John Hands of Stone Lineker. It's a very intriguing fight. Mayday, I want to say, is a slight underdog here. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. Daniel, who do you like in this matchup?
I mean, dude, who doesn't like John Lineker at this point, right? I mean, the guy, he comes to fight the way he mixes it up to the body. I mean, he gets dudes running away from him, and he's 5'2", and he's beating up these dudes that are like 5'10", like Rob Font. So, I mean, he's an absolute monster, and 135 pounds is the correct weight class for him. So I think he's going to beat McDonald. Now, here are my questions for this fight. So if you recall, in his last fight with Rob Font, you look at him on the scales, and he is ripped out of his mind. The fight was in Brazil. We know things are a little bit different over there. Let's see how he looks on the scales here tomorrow for this fight. If he looks ripped out of his mind, bet on John Lineker. But if he's looking a little soft around the midsection, as Connor would say, then maybe take a look at McDonald, because McDonald can crack too. McDonald can also submit you off your back, as he showed in the Brad Pickett fight. Lineker has been submitted off his back, as you saw in the Arantes fight. So, you know, I would never count anyone out. But at this point in time, with the momentum and with the way they've been looking, you got to go with John Lineker.
Now, Paolo, do you agree with Daniel here? Are you going with the Hands of Stone to remain undefeated at bantamweight, or do you think Mayday can continue his winning streak after his win this past January in his return fight?
Yeah, I think Lineker's going to manage to close that gap and outstrike Michael McDonald. Now, I know Michael McDonald is like, he had a bit of hype before he lost to Faber and took like I think it was like a 3-year later. I mean, he was gone for like a long while, almost as gone as Dominic Cruz was actually. But because he has got knockout power and he's known as this dangerous striker. But I think Rob Font was honestly a better technical striker than Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald's more powerful and he's more explosive, but technique-wise, Rob Font was better. And we know what John Lineker did to Rob Font there. He's like, I don't care about how good you are. I'm just going to go in there. You're not going to be able to do anything to me because I'm not going to respect your power because I'm tough as shit, which he is. And he's going to get in. He's going to start clubbing Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald's eventually going to start respecting his power. And Lineker might win by knockout eventually, or he's going to win by decision. But, I got to go with John Lineker here.
And Mike, do you agree with both Daniel and Paulo? Will John Lineker get the job done, or do you think Michael McDonald can continue his winning streak?
I mean, this is a really tough fight. I mean, when he fought Rob Font, and again, you guys both mentioned the technical striking of Rob Font. And I thought Rob Font, with that technical striking, would get the job done. But Damon Martin from Fox Sports came on the show, and he said he had gotten a tweet probably 2 days after that fight with Font. And John Lineker was so intimidating that it said, quote, it was like Rob Font fought John Lineker like John Lineker had knives in his hands. Like that's what he did to Rob Font. You saw Rob Font is and I like Rob Font personally, but Rob Font, he scared Rob Font. He scared him. He had that ability to just walk through every shot that he threw and just kind of walk him down the entire fight. I mean, we saw a different kind of John Lineker. He went all 3 rounds. He didn't get tired, but again, it could be the Brazilian kind of aspect of that whole thing. So I do agree with Daniel. I mean, the weigh-ins are going to be interesting. If he comes in, looking shredded and looking like a beast, you definitely got to favor Lineker here. But yeah, if he's a little soft, I mean, Michael McDonald can sit there. He's got good footwork. He can wear out John Lineker as time progresses. This is going to be a 5-round fight. So it'll be interesting to see how this fight plays out if it gets into the championship rounds. But man, I got to go with my gut here. And I'm saying John Lineker gets the job done. I think he knocks him out within 3 rounds. That's just kind of how I'm feeling right now. I think it's John Lineker's time in that division to really make a statement here, and a win over Michael McDonald will certainly make that statement.
Well, it's time to disagree again. I am going with Michael McDonald in this fight, and I'm really high on John Lineker. You know, he's I wouldn't say he's a favorite of mine, but like I really love John Lineker, and how can you not really at this point? He puts on great fights, especially that Cisco Rivera fight last year. But the way I look at this is John Lineker, he has actually improved his cardio. He can actually go 3 rounds now and look good in the 3rd round. But can he go to the 4th and 5th round? That's something I don't really know. How will John Lineker look in the 4th and 5th round? He's even at bantamweight, he's cutting 10 pounds less, but he still has a pretty tough weight cut. I remember him saying that he walks around at like upwards from 160 or so. So that's still a pretty crazy weight cut, especially with no IVs and stuff like that. So I'm going Michael McDonald, and people will say, oh, McDonald looked terrible in his last fight against Masanori Kanehara, and I absolutely agree. McDonald was looking good early, but Kanehara nearly had him choked out, and then McDonald with arguably the submission of the year so far, reversed and got him in his own submission and tapped out Kanehara. But that was a close call. That was a performance where it's like, it's glad to see Michael McDonald back, but man, he didn't look that good against a guy not even in like the top 15 that's on his way out, really. But I think Michael McDonald will look better. I gotta imagine a lot of that was due to ring rust. He had been out for over 2 years. John Lineker, he's a very good fighter. He deserves that number 8 spot. But Michael McDonald is kind of underrated now. That loss to Kanehara, the layoff. And John Lineker is kind of all hype right now, moving up in weight, looking good against Cisco, looking good against Rob Font. It could go either way. It's either going to be Lineker by knockout in the first 2 rounds. If it goes to the 3rd or especially the 4th, I think it will be Michael McDonald all day in those rounds. I will say McDonald taps out John Lineker in the 4th round. I think John Lineker will look really good in the 1st, maybe even hurt McDonald, maybe win the 2nd, but in the 3rd round, I think McDonald's cardio advantage will take over. I'm going Michael McDonald by submission in the 4th round, but I mean, it's tough to bet this fight if you are a better man. It's a close one, so I'm going McDonald, but I can't argue against anyone picking Lineker, including you 3. Now, guys, thank you as always for taking the time to do the show. Paolo, do you have a DraftKings team ready?
Yes, I have a DraftKings team ready. I will tell you right now. Oh, okay, you're waiting for me. Okay. I got Josh Saman. I've got John Lineker. I've got Luis Smolka. I got Matt Lopez. I got Eric Spicely. So that's 4 underdogs in there. So I'm thinking about maybe switching out Spicely because there's always the chance that he gets knocked the F out and gain you like no points at all. So I might put in Tony Ferguson in there, or I forgot, one of the big faves, whatever else. That's optional.
Interesting. Daniel, are you into DraftKings now, or are you still waiting on that deal?
You can get my bets at bestfightpicks.com.
All right, fair enough. Mike, I don't. This is the first time, of course, that I've spoken with you and had you on the show. Do you do DraftKings?
I do not do DraftKings, but I probably should if I'm going to be on the show again, huh?
Yes, definitely. That would be a good option, although Daniel Levy has gotten away with it, so that's all good. Anyway, guys, thank you as always for taking time. Daniel, let us know where we can find you on social media. Let us know where you can find your website, your podcast, everything else you got going on in the world of mixed martial arts. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, always fun to talk the fights with you guys. Nice to meet you, Mike. Follow me on Twitter at bestfightpicks. Go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays, and check out my my podcast, Half the Battle. iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, Half the Battle. And Mike, let's talk on one of our podcasts sometimes, man. It'd be fun. Now, nice talking to you guys.
All right, Daniel, appreciate you taking time as always. Paulo, let us know where you can find you on social media, everything else you got going. Your writing has also Let us know what else you got going on in the world of MMA. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find a lot of my writing at Sportsnet and at Vendetta Fighter. I do features for Sportsnet, Vendetta Fighter, just breaking down news, doing a couple of bets actually, cheap dogs. Cheap dogs, cheap shot, where it's just underdogs and plus money bets. And I actually won a little bit of money on the articles. I mean, I didn't do well as a gambler myself because I went a little bit over on Frankie Edgar. But check out the articles. I'm hitting on all those dogs. I know I'm only hitting 33%, but I'm up 1.5 unit. So I'm hitting the ones that matter. Check out those articles. I also give out the DraftKings underdogs. They average to about 70 points, so that's pretty good if you can nail a couple of DraftKings underdogs to give you that money. And of course, at Go Paolo MMA.
All right, now Mike, I appreciate you taking time for the first time. Great to chat with you for the first time. Let my audience know, our audience know, where we can find your podcast, you on social media, anything else you got going on in MMA.
You can find us on Twitter at SFLC Podcast. Just search that on Facebook as well. You can find us there. And that's really it. Daniel, I would love to take you up on the offer, so hit me up on that. This week on the show, we got some good stuff coming up. Obviously, we have Damon Martin from Fox Sports coming on, so we have a lot to talk about there with the sale and obviously International Fight Week and everything that happened there. But coming up on Wednesday night, as these fights are going on, we're going to have Marcus Malding on the show. And if you don't know who he is, he's a fighter out of Detroit. And about a month ago, his mom had passed away 2 days before he was going to make his professional debut. And he ended up fighting anyways, despite all of that, and got a first-round finish. So I wanted to bring him on. We do have a lot of young fighters who listen to the show, so I figured, getting Marcus on and letting him get his name out there after everything he's gone through would be really good for him and really good for some of the young fighters who listen to the show who are trying to get through the amateur ranks up to the professional ranks and kind of really dealing with adversity. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. And then with our show, you just never know what's going to happen. We could just have anybody on at any time. So, Nick, thank you very much for doing this, man. I appreciate that. And if you need a fill-in, just let me know, brother.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, it's great to chat with you for the first time and have you here on Before the Battle. As far as where you can find me on the Twitter, at NickUFC, my podcast, The MMA Circus on Bloody Elbow. I host that with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence each and every week. This week on the show, Andrew is not going to be on. We have guest co-host Carlin Bardsley, the host of the Party and Shop podcast. Always great to chat with him. We also have on the show new UFC middleweight fighter Marvin Vettori, one championship atomweight champion Angela Lee. We have the Titan FC lightweight champion JC Cavalcante. We have Titan FC lightweight fighter Des Green. And we also have WSOF bantamweight title challenger Josh Hill. So great lineup there. Check that out on Wednesday. I think that's it. My writing over at Bloody Elbow. Been doing a lot lately. Interview pieces for some of those will be up as well. Thank you again to you guys. Thank you to people listening. And with that, enjoy the fight.